Chapter 5. Mariah and I both stopped eating and both verbally gasp-grunted. Alison didn't look fazed and must not have made the connections. "Are you serious?" Mariah questioned, her eyes flipping across Anthony and David. "Why is this a big deal?" Alison looked like we were making a big deal out of something minor, like a 10% off coupon. "Jeffrey Quinns is Larry Elroy's friend who we just met today," I said harshly, which caused Alison to perk up. "Oh, yeah, sorry, white men just look the same after a while," Alison shrugged, grabbing another forkful of food. "How did he die, and what does the note you found say?" I followed up, and Anthony broke it down for us. "An hour ago, some neighbors called to say they heard several gunshots. We arrived on the scene and entered the house. He was propped up in a chair right when you walk in, but he wasn't murdered quickly. He was half naked and had been poked about 100 times with needles. We found the needles next to his body. We're testing them right now. He was additionally cut, but we didn't see a knife on the scene. It appears he was alive during all of this, and none of those injuries killed him, but then the killing blow was a shot through the temple." "I guess the killer likes to cause pain," Mariah guessed. "Was it personal?" "We think it's Larry Elroy," Anthony sighed. "There's a personal connection to the victim. Maybe Elroy was staying with Quinns and became paranoid, thought Quinns might turn him in. Or could be that he was watching Quinns when you all barged in there. Might think you're onto a scent." "You think Jeffrey Quinns died because of us?" Mariah turned to Alison and me. My heart dropped at the thought while Alison continued slurping up noodles. Anthony and David both sucked in buckets of air at that question, but it was David who answered it. The note next to Quinn's body said, 'You made me do this, you three? Poor Jeffrey, he suffered forever so long.'" "Damn, that has to be about us," I whispered. "Elroy is just a theory. We don't have any hard evidence to connect this crime to Larry Elroy," David cut in, trying to calm us down. "But he's the only suspect, so—" "This means that Quinns knew something." Mariah was stroking her chin in thought like she was Sherlock Holmes on a caper. "Quinns was skittish with us, but I don't think he knew any problematic information. He just seemed like he didn't want to get caught up in what was happening. Maybe Elroy felt otherwise if he decided to murder Quinns." "But what would Quinns know?" I asked. "Did Quinns even know where Elroy was staying? Is that murderous information?" "We're talking about a man who killed his wife's lover, and his wife's sister," Anthony muttered. "He's crazy." "Why do we have to find him?" I clinked my silverware against the plate in soft protest. "This is way above our payroll." "But imagine our payroll once we bring Larry Elroy to justice," Alison sighed. "I'll be able to buy that fur coat at Macy's." Alison had a point. We would go from dollar store salary to fancy rich lady salary just by bringing Elroy to justice. "Can we see the crime scene?" I blinked my eyes sweetly. "I don't know. It's still being processed," Anthony muttered. "But I suppose I could pull a couple strings. But you guys owe me." "Of course," Mariah smiled. "Maybe there's something at the scene of the crime that's worthwhile for us." After eating, we drove off like some kind of crime-watching parade of cars. Jeffrey Quinn's house was crime-taped off, but Anthony and David allowed us to enter the premises. They had finished collecting evidence and had removed Quinn's dead body. We saw the bloody chair Quinn's body had been in. The chair was in line with the door, so that you could see the chair instantly when you entered the house. "This place looks like a crime scene," Alison mused. "That's because it is a crime scene," I said, my eyes bulging out in disbelief at her comment. "I know, I'm just saying it really looks like a crime scene." Mariah and I cased the kitchen and noticed a little notepad near the phone that read Cafe Svagali 9. "Did you see this?" I pointed to Mariah. "What's happening at Cafe Svagali?" "This might have already happened," Mariah muttered. "Let me check the hours to make sure that doesn't mean 9 p.m. Mariah checked her phone while Alison strolled over. "Did we find something?" "Maybe," I shrugged. "Cafe Svagali closes at 6 p.m., so this has to be 9 a.m., Mariah mused. "But did this meeting or date or whatever it is already happen?" "I don't know." I looked at the notepad. "I think we should check tomorrow morning. Chances have to be high, right?" "Did you find something?" Anthony called out from the other room, walking towards the kitchen. Alison grabbed the notepad and stuffed it into her purse. Mariah and I both let out a small, "my heavens" type of gasp. "No, we didn't find anything," Alison pouted. "I'm so upset." Mariah and I nodded silently, worried to open our mouths and let something out like, "We found a little notepad with something written on it that Alison put into her purse." Anthony and David led us outside and resecured the crime scene, leaving Mariah, Alison, and I to whisper to each other. So we're staking out this Cafe Sfagali? I muttered. Of course we are, Mariah explained. Can you bitches be at the cafe by 8:45 a.m.? Internally, I wanted to push back with such an early alarm. Most of the world would be up that early, but I did enjoy staying up late watching stale television programming before sleeping so deeply that on a few occasions people thought I was a corpse instead of a heavy sleeper. Fine, I sighed. We'll meet at Cafe Sfagali that early. I suppose I can make that work, too. Alison sighed as if she was moving her tea time with the Queen of England. The following morning, my grumpy butt was seated in Cafe Sfagali by 8:45 a.m. I was clutching a caramel latte that I was drinking faster than a fraternity brother could chug a terrible beer. Looking around Cafe Sfagali made you think you were in an old animated film, as people smiled with their coffee and pastries, chipper and eager to start the day. I felt like I was on a show like Glee that was about to burst into song and dance. Mariah sat down next to me with a black coffee. So far, Larry Elroy had not appeared. You're lucky this is the only lead we have, I sighed to Mariah, who rolled her eyes before sipping her coffee obnoxiously. Alison was still ordering, eyeing the pastry shelf as if she was Tyra Banks, judging models on America's Next Top Model. I've decided, Alison strongly called out to the barista, who looked underpaid to be handling this. Can I get a large mocha fudge frap? Do you mean the Venta? The barista asked sassily. That's what we call the large. I don't give a fuck what you call it. I want a mocha fudge frap in the largest cup you have available. The barista looked taken aback, but seemed quick to realize that Alison was not a typical customer. And then for my meal, can I do the ham and bacon on the Shia bath bread? Do you mean the ciabatta? Bitch, if you have time to correct me, you have too much time on your hands. I'd also like to add a pumpkin muffin for dessert. It's out of season for pumpkin muffins. It's July. Then why is it on the case? That's a summer squash muffin. The barista now felt intentional with her sassy demeanor. I don't care what squash it is or isn't. I want that damn muffin with my sandwich and my drink. The barista rang Alison up for a total cost that was equal to my monthly electricity bill. Alison grumbled and walked over to us. She was doing a terrible job looking conspicuous. Can you believe it cost me almost $20? Alison roared. This shit better be organic or healthy. It felt like we spent most of our time spending outrageous amounts of money at local restaurants rather than doing our paid jobs of investigating C-grade mysteries and, usually, catching low-bail escapees. I highly doubt the combo of a large milkshake, a muffin, and meat sandwich by Brad is going to be deemed healthy. Wait, so is your diet over? Mariah wanted to confirm. I figured I'd start it next month, Alison explained. It's hard to start things like diets when you're already so deep into the month. It's the 4th, I said inquisitively, but the barista was returning with Alison's food, so Alison hustled over to claim her breakfast sandwich and accompanying dessert. Mariah turned to me. Have you ever had the desire to eat a frappe with a muffin and a breakfast sandwich? I've done a 2,000-calorie binge in a half hour before. I just don't usually consider adding dessert to my breakfast. Alison returned with her breakfast food like she was holding triplets. She munched down the food quickly, while Mariah and I sipped our drinks while scanning for Larry Elroy. At 8:58, as if sent from God him or herself, Larry Elroy entered Cafe Sfagali. His eyes swept the cafe in search of Jeffrey Quinns, who was now, pushing up daisies. Larry went to the counter, quietly ordered a cup of coffee, and soon after sat a few tables down from us. So Quinns was supposed to meet with Elroy today, Mariah muttered. So then Elroy didn't kill him. Why would he be here? I was thinking the same thing. If Elroy had killed Quinns, there would be no point coming to Cafe Sfagali unless the coffee was that good. And I could confirm it was not. Why are all these people using notes and pens like they're pilgrims or something? Alison huffed. The lack of laptops in here is astounding. Shh. My inner librarian came out. Elroy is here. He is? Alison cocked her head around like an owl on cocaine. When do we nab him? Nab? I gasped. No, we need to think this through. I quickly remembered who I was talking to. Alison was not the type to think things through. It went against her artistry, if that's what you could call being obnoxious and impulsive. Alison, you stand behind him, I muttered. Mariah, you take his right, I'll take his left. Sounds good. Mariah finished her coffee in one gulp. I knew I couldn't finish my caramel latte that quickly, so I brought it along. For the first time since working together, the three of us were synchronized. Sliding into the chair to the left of Larry Elroy, I quickly got to the point. Elroy, we know you were supposed to meet with Quinns, I said crisply. Larry Elroy's body tensed up like I did any time I realized that my parking meter had probably expired due to me being cheap on feeding at quarters. Larry went to stand up, but Alison used her palms to push him back down in the chair. No, sir, Alison threatened. You can keep in your seat like a good boy. We wouldn't mind making a scene. We don't want a scene, I corrected. We're open to making a scene, Alison readjusted, which again felt inaccurate. No, we're not open to making a scene. It's more of a last resort. It's still on the table, Alison hissed directly in Larry's ear in a weirdly sexual manner. I decided to ignore Alison and turn back to Larry Elroy. Listen, I don't know what you know, but whatever you know is probably wrong, Larry muttered. You're right. I'm here to meet my friend Jeffrey Quinns. Jeffrey is dead. Mariah broke the news way too harshly. What? I saw him yesterday. Larry looked shell-shocked and genuinely taken aback. We made plans to meet today. Even wrote it on this paper so that people didn't hack into his phone. You know how the government is. Someone tortured and killed Quinns last afternoon, I informed Elroy. We assumed you killed him. Larry Elroy was horrified and insulted, as if he was a smart student being asked to cheat on a test. No, Jeffrey was helping me. I wouldn't have killed him. But you did kill 3 people, Mariah tossed out. Just as gruesomely as Quinn's death. I didn't kill anyone, Larry Elroy said confidently, staring at each of us in turn. It wasn't me. I was framed. All right, let's bite. Mariah was a bit of the bad cop, and I was the good cop. Alison was the bumbling cop who sometimes came in clutch. The person who killed Quinns is the same who killed my wife, her lover, and my wife's sister, Elroy explained. And who would that be? I asked. Before Elroy could respond, gunshots rang out in the room. Mariah, Alison, and I hit the deck. Elroy leaped out of his chair and ran for the back of the cafe. The whole cafe screamed, patrons getting underneath tables and chairs, pastries and sandwiches flying. A bullet hole tore through the rest of my caramel latte, which was especially difficult news to process. Elroy's getting away, Alison yelled. We gotta go after him. There were gunshots. I sounded like a mother scolding her child. In the backdrop of sounds came the noise of a loud car getaway. Whoever had just shot up the cafe was speeding out of here before they got stuck at the crime. Anthony and David showed up minutes later, along with a few other cops. They took our statements and were not happy that we had found a lead on Elroy without disclosing it. He may be your skip, but he's a wanted criminal, Anthony muttered. The fuck did this man make bail in the first place? But Elroy was convincing. I believe someone is framing him, I told the two. Pass the word along. I'll pass the word, but I don't know if it'll be accepted, Anthony promised. Who would be framing Larry Elroy in the first place? We were going to find out before this place turned into a Hollywood movie, Mariah sighed. Do you think the person framing Elroy knew about this meeting from the note? Or maybe they followed us, I explained. A police officer approached Anthony and David and powwowed for a quick cops-only conversation. Anthony and David returned after with somber expressions. You two look like strippers turned you down. What's going on? Alison bluntly asked. There's a note. David sighed, raising a plastic baggie with a piece of paper in it. It says, I could have gotten all 4 of you, but I've been enjoying this too much to kill you all yet. Oh, great. A death threat. I sighed, as if I had found ants in my kitchen. You guys should pull out of this, Anthony sternly warned us. This is getting too serious. Are you implying we can't do serious things? Mariah asked sternly. Well... Anthony turned over to Alison, who was at the counter demanding service from the shaken baristas. I was thinking about Anthony's statement as we returned to Zalecky Bonds and investigations. It appeared Larry Elroy might be innocent of his crimes, which, if so, really meant that some insane person was out there killing people and now was after us. The only investigations we were qualified to look into were missing items and cheaters. This did seem above our heads. Mariah, Alison, and I walked into the office to find Helen standing with a mystery stranger. Receptionist Kathy was looking like a bored audience member waiting for the chance to evacuate the theater. Ah, you 3 entered at a great time. Helen's tone was borderline sassy, as if we were out having a delicious brunch instead of being shot at in a second-rate cafe. We had a lead on Larry Elroy that went awry, I sighed. Sounds on brand. Helen steamrolled me. Anyway, I went ahead and hired a new investigator and bounty hunter for the team. He just moved to the area and comes with shimmering references. This is Santiago. Santiago, these three are Mariah, Alison, and Matty. Nice to meet you, I smiled. Well, Mariah nodded in welcome. Santiago nodded back. He had twinkling emerald eyes, long black hair that had more flow than a river, and wore dark-colored clothes, including a leather jacket and a cowboy hat. Santiago looked more official than any of the clowns that worked here. Mariah, Matty, I trust you'll get Santiago accustomed, Helen asked in her fake, sugary tone. She didn't want to let on her true personality to Santiago until he had worked a few days around here. You can show him the ropes. It looked like Santiago should be showing us the ropes. And here's a few new skips. Helen's bossy tone returned as she handed Mariah and I 3 folders. These are simple ones. Doohickeys been having trouble with them, so I'm giving you control over them. Now, I doubt you need all 4 of you to hit up these skips, but figure it out. I don't care who gets what, but can you have all these done by Friday? Handling 6 cases in 2 days? Easy. Mariah nodded. Well, Helen walked back to her office. You think it's going to be easy? My eyebrows were 7 feet high in the air, and I wasn't even 6 feet tall. Relax. Mariah opened the folders. Anything is easier than Larry Elroy and the killer that's after him. All right, come on back with us. I motioned towards Santiago. Most of the desks are over here, and then there's File World, which is where all the old files were kept before everything became digital. The bathroom's in the back. There's a conference room we rarely use, and there's this little nook where Mariah and I work. And me, Alison chimed in. I claim the open desk. We can't fit a 4th desk in here, I sighed. So you'll have to take an empty desk in the main office. I won't need a desk, Santiago gruffly shrugged. Just a computer on occasion, maybe a printer. I looked at my desk, which was covered in junk, runaway coins for parking meters, leftover snack wrappers, and a few too many empty coffee cups. Yeah, desks are overrated in our line of work, I agreed, stuffing a few things into the nearby trash can and recycling bin. Are we going to catch anyone today? Santiago casually asked. Well, it's already 2, I sighed. I think we should maybe call it a day. Let's just do 1, Santiago coaxed, like a parent who wanted to utilize authority while still being a best friend. You and I can do it. I like that idea. Alison was inspecting her nails. I need a top coat on these nails like a prisoner of war needs to be released. Which one is the easiest to capture? Santiago calmly inquired. I eyed the files with casual fatigue. Either Amanda or Chris. Well, why don't we go after Chris Lennox? Santiago suggested, and I reluctantly agreed in the form of a dramatic sigh and a tired expression. Are we on for dinner? Mariah wanted to know. Our priority was food, not our jobs. Sounds good to me, I nodded. I get to pick, Alison cried out in the middle of applying lipstick. I was confused by the need for beauty in the middle of the afternoon. You always pick, Mariah scoffed. Matty, do you really have to leave me? Relax. You and Alison can spend the afternoon working on what restaurant we'll go to later. Santiago and I exited Zlucky Bonds and were walking to Santiago's Lexus when the devil himself appeared. Where are you going without Mariah? Doohickey sneered. I thought you were 2 little rats going around messing with other people's personal matters. Please, Mariah and I could care less about your personal matters, I snorted. Do you even have personal matters? You're not even a person. Did I mention you 2 are fat little rats? Doohickey added with a grin. And this is your new boyfriend or something? Showing him the town? I slanted my eyes, not sure if this was casual homophobia, a comment about my empty dating life, or some other implication. I was asked to show him around the worst parts of Cleveland, I chirped. Thankfully, it didn't take much to find you for the tour. My name is Jack Doohickey. You do well to remember it, Doohickey barked. You'd do even better to forget his name. Yes, forget all about it. Just like all of Matty's ex-boyfriends forgot about him when they break up with him, Doohickey said with a pointed finger. I sucked in so much air that I almost floated into the air like a hot air balloon. We have to go, I snapped. There's no time in my schedule to volunteer to make fun of deranged community members. Doohickey looked like an angry dog ready to bark, bite, and claw at the same time. He moved forward with his hand stretched out in front of him. I felt a surge of adrenaline build up as I became prepared to throw some hands. Instead, Santiago moved between us and slapped Doohickey across the face. Like a telenovela, Doohickey and I both dramatically gasped and stumbled backward. "You'll pay for this," Doohickey snarled. "You'll pay for it in blood." "I'd like to see you try and get this blood," Santiago mused, which caused Doohickey to scoff, turn, and enter into the office. "He is not going to like that," I reported, while climbing into the passenger seat of Santiago's Lexus. "Sorry, I couldn't stand the guy." With Santiago's help, we managed to grab 2 skips with no problems, drama, or slapstick improv comedy moments. Santiago was a real professional who was calm, strategic, and talented. In fact, the only part of him which had been heated was the slap to Doohickey's face. I had replayed it like a short social media flick in my head 20 times over. We headed right back to the office to find Alison and Mariah still sitting at their desks as if they hadn't moved since we had left. "Did you do anything about the 3rd skip?" I asked, pointing to the folder. "Yeah, we'll tackle this tomorrow," Alison said, still glued to her phone and watching beauty videos while finishing her nails, which were painted neon leopard print. "Dinner?" Mariah asked, looking between Santiago and me. "For sure. I love getting dinner after working," I jabbed slightly. We made our way over to Hot Chicks, which was a local hot chicken restaurant that made hot chicken so hot it was as if Pamela Anderson bathed naked in a volcano. "You're still not doing that diet, right?" I asked Alison as I watched her order enough biscuits for a whole table of diners. "I decided that my priority right now is my happiness," Alison explained. "Happiness in the form of hot chicken, biscuits, and coleslaw." "You also ordered fries," Mariah mentioned from the side of her mouth, like a stoic ventriloquist. We ended up grilling Santiago for a bit, but he was mumming the details. At one point, I joked that it sounded like Santiago was trying to hide something, or his identity, and that didn't get a chuckle from Santiago, which meant I was probably onto something. We learned he had a sweet tooth, an ex-wife, and a particular love of lacrosse, having played it throughout his school years. I left to go home, mainly so I could stay up and watch episodes of Forensic Files. I was dreaming of freezer ice cream for dessert when I noticed something on my door. It was a note that had been stuck to my door with a steak knife. The note read, "Be on the lookout. I might carve into something soon." I looked to the heavens as if God could simply get rid of the issue for me. God was probably busy. So instead, I called Anthony to get the police to investigate the note for fingerprints or something. I then called my roommate Ramona and briefly filled her in on the situation. She was currently at her boyfriend's place and didn't mind the excuse to spend more time with him. My third call was to Mariah, who I knew would also be up watching television like me. "There's been a threat placed at my house," I explained, "so I was wondering if I could come spend the night." Mariah and I had crashed together in scary moments of our careers before, like when Mariah was stalked by a creep, or the time a chicken farmer we grabbed was trying to egg us for taking his wife back to the courts. Mariah's house was less than a 5-minute drive away. On an ordinary night, it would have been an easy walk, but I was trying to minimize my chances of getting murdered tonight. While my house had 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, Mariah's had 3 bigger bedrooms and 1.5 bath. It was a bit more cozier and nuanced, fitted with dark arts paraphernalia, a bar table for weed and tea, and a lingering scent of lavender. "Do you want to tell me what the note said?" Mariah asked, locking the door behind us as if the killer was just steps behind me. "Something about carving into something?" "Well, I was about to carve into some ice cream. Does that count?" I smiled. "As long as we can carve double scoops out."